going to talk to us, going to present work that was performed by collaboration with Habitat Rights, which I had the pleasure of co-supervising, I think, or was it the job? I can't remember, and Alessandra Carrera on the use of state parameter and predicting static liquefaction.
Technology is now working. Okay, so that is I'm the guy standing here, but Abby Cartwright and Alessandra Carrera did all the work. I'm going to speak about the use of state parameters in predicting static liquefaction. I'm going to focus on tailings today. Nilo, very nice introduction to tailings this morning. Just in the last decade, there have been 39 major failures. Tailings dams, 620 people together. And we were talking about Romania in 2019. A very wide range of causes of failures, failures of tailings dams. This chart here from Rico et al. The thing I want to focus on is whatever the initiation cause is, these sorts of huge runouts that we're seeing can only mean that the soil is completely liquefied. So my work on static liquefaction started some time ago, not 1985, but this was the Stava disaster that was in 1985. We worked on it later. Stava in Italy was quite an unusual tailings dam. It was one dam built on top of another one. That's a photograph of it before it collapsed. That's after. The big problem with Stava was that it was built up here in the mountains, so you had nearly 250,000 meters cubed of this stuff coursing down the valley at 90 kilometers an hour. There was a village in the way, 260 people killed. So we worked on Stava and the liquefaction, the causes of it. Milo also told us that the gradient of tailings will vary. So if you have your outfall behind the dam, for example, you'll get a beach with coarse materials, that's the slurries flow out into the pond, you get the finer materials. We couldn't sample in situ because there was no in situ left. But we took sound and fine gradients from the start, and we combined them in different proportions from 100% sand to 100% silt. They're quite simple tailings from Stava. Fluoride tailings, mostly quartz and calcite. And then, of course, the usual thing, controlled triaxial tests. Pedro Ferreira used the same definitions of P and Q that I'm going to today. Okay, so we're taking critical states on the right-hand diagram. Stress ratio, Q over P dash, we're looking for a stable stress ratio, we're looking for a stable pore pressure, and then we're plotting the end-of-testable critical state. This is red points here on the graph of E, log P dash. This is for the sand, clean sand. If we start adding in silt, 30% silt, that critical state line moves down, just like we've just seen in the last presentation. And then we move down a bit more, for a bit more silt. But then when we add in 100% silt, we go back up again. So with increasing fines, the critical state line goes down and back up again. People often reciting my work, that this sort of curvature of a critical state line is the result of breakage, which is probably starting around here. No, it's not. These are the gradings for the sand, the pure sand, before and after testing. Yeah. And there's no breakage. So there's no breakage of any of these different mixtures. No, the curvature is not from breakage. Now, it's this curvature of the critical state line that I want to emphasize, because that's what controls the static liquefaction. We'll stick with the 100% sand data, any of the other gradings. So here are the E log P dash data for critical states. I want you to notice the horizontal asymptote, which is all important. And we're going to plot the stress paths on QP. We'll divide it up into 3 zones. What is the pink zone? Anything above that horizontal asymptote, if you shear it undrained, no matter what you how you do it, you've got to come to 0 P dash, because you cannot reach a critical state line. You're above the asymptote, so you get stress paths like this one. But quite a reasonable peak strength, but then complete reduction of P dash to 0, and if P dash is 0, Q has to be 0. So we get complete liquefaction. You get a blue zone here, like this test, which probably started somewhere here. And in the blue zone, well, you're going to get a big reduction of P dash coming back this way. A big reduction of P dash, and that's giving you a lot of strain softening and reduction of Q. So lots of reduction of Q, strain softening, you notice I call it. And then there's a purple zone here where you get much less reduction of P dash, much less reduction of P dash. Maybe a bit of reduction of Q, maybe even strain hardening. Personally, I don't find it helpful, like in the literature, to call that. That's the blue test. Anything to do with liquefaction. We have a word for that. That's strain softening. Just like London clay, strain softens. This is no different. This is strain softening. And any soil that does that and still has a undrained shear strength of 100 kPa after at the critical state is not failing and flowing out like that. We've got to look for the red ones. We've seen data like this just now. Effective changing grading. Not going to look at the effect on the liquefaction potential, but just look at the E max and the E min as we change the silt content, fairly standard data. Void ratios go down and they go up as you increase the silt content. What we're plotting now, though, is the E liquefaction, comparing it to E max and E min. E liquefaction is simply the horizontal asymptote of that critical state line, which is the red points. And by looking at the relative locations, we can get an idea of the susceptibility to liquefaction. So actually, the clean sand is the least easily liquefied. The clean sand, you have to have states that are pretty close to the maximum possible void ratio in order to get liquefaction. But if you start adding in 30% silt, then the void ratio you need is only a little bit above the minimum void ratio. So that's the most easily liquefied. In conventional approaches to sort of predicting liquefaction, people tend to use straight critical state lines, and you see diagrams like this with everything above the line susceptible to liquefaction, everything below the line not susceptible. We use state parameters psi, taking the difference, as we've just seen, between the P in situ and the E on the critical state line at the current P dash. But that's not going to work. If your critical state line is curved, that does not work, cannot work. Because you can have the same psi at different locations on this curved line, and you will get 3 different, totally different behaviors. But psi is not simply going to work if your critical state line is curved. And all critical state lines must be curved eventually. At the log scale, it cannot be straight forever. So the usual state parameter framework with a straight critical state line cannot capture this behavior of curved critical state lines. Same sign, very different responses. We can use an IB brittleness index, which is a Q maximum minus Q critical state divided by Q maximum. That's telling us the degree of strain softening, and it's also telling us liquefaction, because if we have liquefaction, IB will simply be 1, and if it's strain hardening, IB will be 0. Okay, so let's look at a state parameter. We know it's not going to work, so here it is, it's not working. This is IB, brittleness index. So those ones up there with the brittleness of 1, those are the liquefying samples for the different ratings that we're testing. Liquefied samples of the triangle. But there's no real correlation here at all, is there? You wouldn't have expected one. It doesn't even work for one soil. If you take clean sand and blue stuff, it does not even work for one soil. So state parameters are not the way forward. So we can look at alternative state parameters. And the first one we'll look at is a state pressure index. This is defined by Wang et al. 2002. For this one, you take the current P dash and you divide by P dash on the critical state. As Hans kindly noticed, this is exactly the sort of thing that I was doing in prehistory. And this is me in 1990 doing exactly the same thing to define state boundary surfaces for carbonate sand. And there are a variety of what we call equivalent pressures, critical state lines and long compression lines. I'm not claiming that I certainly didn't know the Rory Klotz. It goes way back to Schofield and Riggs, I think, maybe even further. So this state pressure index, I don't think is going to work, because we know that if you're there above the asymptote, P dash critical state 0, infinite IP state pressure index, brittleness index is 1 because it liquefies. The blue point and the mid-range, you're going to have IP of between 0 and 1, and a mid-range of an IP value, and the purple one in the schematic diagram. I'm going to have IP 0, so it's straight hardened, and IP is going to be less than 2-ish, can be less than 1. It's just simply self-evident that if you've got P dash critical state of 0, IP must be infinity, and IP must be 1. That's just simply the definition of liquefaction. So it's not helping us in the slightest. So let's anyway apply it to star. So here we have IP of infinity, IP less than 1 below the critical state line, and IP greater than 1 above the critical state line. So these are the data for Starver. IB, brittleness index, against IP, state pressure index. Those are the liquefying samples up there with an IB of 1 and a high IP state pressure index, of course, tending towards infinity. As P dash critical state turns to 0. The strain hardening samples, these ones down here, are a low IP, less than 2, I said. And IP, of course, is 0 because that's strain hardening. I can switch a unique curve through those data, can't I? More or less, it works quite well. And it's working quite well, no matter what the soil is. No matter what the tailings, it's okay, looks good. But it's absolutely not surprising and not helpful and not illuminating. We know that. IP is simply telling us that a liquefying sample liquefies. It doesn't tell us anything more. So we can look at this modified state parameter psi m. It's coming from Bobbay et al. 2009. That's kind of combining a volumetric offset of psi, state parameter, with a pressure offset, but it's not quite the one I would have used, but it's a delta P dash at a P dash, so they're taking initial P dash and the change of P dash to get to the critical state line. Negative, one might be positive, and your state parameter might be positive. But you're taking the absolute value of this thing here. And they throw in the void ratio for good measure. Let's try that one. So this is psi m, modified state parameter, against, again, brittleness index, liquefying things, strain hardening things. We know that for IB of 1, liquefying things, there must be an asymptote at high psi m values. And for IB of 0, strain hardening soils, there must be an asymptote down here, low values of psi m. So if I look at the data for the blue, the clean sand, well, it's a bit scattered, but I can imagine sketching in some sort of curve like that. But even if I do, it's completely inappropriate for the other mixtures. The 50-50 sand fines, 70-30 sand fines, or the yellow, which is the pure fines. Doesn't work. What I can imagine, I don't really have enough data to show it, but I can imagine a series of different curves, one for each soil, one for each gradient. So there might be a unique trend for one soil, but each soil is just simply giving a different trend, and I'm at a loss to see how that's of any use to anybody. How does that help me to predict any liquefaction? So in conclusion to all that, static liquefaction can't possibly be uniquely related to state parameter psi, the critical state parameter curve, and it all must be. Using a state parameter in terms of stresses like IP or like sort of RS, like the distant part, instead of volumes, doesn't help. It does give you a unique relationship for all the tailings we tested, but it doesn't tell you anything you don't know. It's simply telling you that things that are liquefying are liquefying. Well, yeah, very helpful. Modified state parameter psi m, or Bayet-al, is combining volumetric and stress offsets, but the relationship's different for every soil. So again, I'm not sure how that's helped me. I've been thinking about how to come up with a modified state parameter myself. I can't think of one. You can. Please let me know. Thank you very much.
Right, so when we wait for Mathew to come next to us, I will call for a question. I thought it was a very interesting session, and where first Professor Shifting had discarded the idea of relative density, and now we've seen how